Hi, folks. Nick Tockert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into it, I do want to put some shout outs. I want to shout out to our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory. That's IndieCD.org. Your one stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, and musicians. We also want to shout out to the fact we're made possible by the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of my ongoing series, Western Martial Arts Manuals, designed to help you go from having never handled the sword to teaching the art to others. We also want to remind you that StompCon is happening September 13th, and StompCon is a free to the public indie tabletop gaming event featuring my tabletop tactics game, Big Stompy Robots. It will be September 13th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern at the Benton County Co-op Extension, 410 South Aidway A, Fowler, Indiana, 47942. It's one turn off of 52, remarkably easy to get to. That being said, I want to shout out to my amazing patrons. You guys are what keeps us going, and without you, I know I couldn't keep doing what I'm doing. If I seem a little odd, I wasn't able to get a hold of my mom today, and she had I believe heart surgery, so I have to check on her. But the program goes on. Now, I've been digging through trying to find new gear to talk about. I know Black Knight Armory has put out some fingered gauntlets that look really, really good. Obviously, I can't afford to try them. Most of the gauntlets run between $300 to $500, and that's just outside of the budget I can reach for purchases. But let me see. I had some people message me asking if I knew if there were any good ones that were available, possibly like on Amazon. And I am looking, and there are a lot of, unfortunately, they're very pretty, but for actual gauntlets, they're fairly rare. So you have to look under different terms when you are searching. It's the only way you're going to find gear. And especially when you're starting out, there are some retailers I recommend. I recommend, of course, Purple Heart Armory, with its woodenswords.com. I have a link that should track, and it's an affiliate link. But I also want to recommend Zen Warrior Armory. They can be a little spicy on the price, but they're very high quality gear when it comes to swords and stuff. If you're doing rapier fighting, I wasn't told what style, just that you want to get into sword fighting. So the first thing you're going to want to do is pick a relative group style or other situation you want to get into. Okay? Because they're going to have their own conventions, which is another term for rules. Beyond that, they may have recommended suppliers for their stuff. I know a lot of people wear lacrosse gloves or hockey gloves, but lacrosse give you a little bit more protection. And you can get those either online, of course, or go into a place like Dick's Sporting Goods. Basically, any of the sporting goods shops, they usually have them, and you can try them on and find what feels comfortable. The one thing you want is, when you're wearing glove, and I don't have any of them in here, it will have a natural curve to it. A lot of people get kind of freaked out. I can't make my hand go flat. You don't need to. You're fighting. It should be comfortable. You should have protection above the hand, the fingers, protection on the sides, protection on the thumb. Okay, when you're picking out a glove, it should fit comfortably. Not too loose, but you want room because your hands often swell when you're fighting. Um, Being over armored is infinitely better than being under armored. Well, okay, not having sufficient gear because Under Armour branded stuff is fabulous, and I love their heat wicking gear. But this will give you one. It will help you maintain the grip. I especially because I've uh, damaged hands. I like the facilitation because the gear that I choose and the gloves that I choose. It's part of the reason why having a quillion or with a ricasso area that I can grab, even if it doesn't continue past the guard, is so important because sometimes my hands turn off. The grip will momentarily let loose due to the nerve damage. So that by having something like that, it gives me a little more lock in. Likewise, a knuckle duster or basket hilt, it gives you a little more lock. Now, I need a bit of freedom because I switch between hands when I fight, either due to necessity because by our conventions I've lost a hand, or due to reach. I am very much an ambidextrous fighter, so we go with that. The, it's a great uh, it's a great time, especially versus when I was starting out, to find and make your own gear. There are a lot more options now because of the tariff situation and because of my own personal loyalties. Man, I spilled on my shirt today. Sorry about that. Uh, I am usually inclined to buy American made as close as possible, but sometimes that is not available. Now, again, your weapons will be varied by what group you are in and what you're doing. Sometimes you simply need rugged leather gloves, and you have options, uh, especially if you know your SCA fencing. Leather gloves can come in a lot of varieties. Heavy welding gloves. Um, they have some leather barbecue gloves, especially with extended arms for protection, blacksmithing gloves. But I found some really great gloves in the welding section that were like $6. You do want to go full leather. You want to go as big a cuff up your arm as can fit because that's going to be where your sleeve tucks. And one thing you don't want is if you're fencing your arm, your the fabric armor to get pushed back and have exposed uh, skin. Because one, in certain rules that can stop, it can even forfeit a fight. In others, it invites damage. Um, so I will have to know um, how what group you're in and what you want for what you're trying to accomplish to give more information. Now, the other great thing is while a lot of people in HEMA like to uh, and other organizations like to kind of take shots at the SCA, and I have my differences obviously with the SCA, but um, I don't a lot of what they do really well. And one thing they do really well in the heavy fighting, that is the crafting of their own gear. And because they're studying the real life history and they're trying to be a living history group to maintain it, many of them are developing the skills of an armorer. I was studying at one point to be an armorer under a gentleman who passed. It was my great privilege to do so. And I am working towards encouraging certain people I know to come forward and possibly set up a better presence online to demonstrate the armor that they make so that we have a chance of making armor ourselves. I think that would be very beneficial for everyone, and they're very talented. So I'm hoping that that becomes something that happens. And I have to reach out to them and talk to them. I know that their life is in a lot of turmoil right now. But the preservation of knowledge is something I find to be paramount. And I would also like help refreshing and gathering my own knowledge on the matter, because I intend to do some armoring myself. I'm just dealing with whew, sorry, it is hot and I forgot to grab my hair tie. Uh, some things, and once the temperature drops and I can get going, I want to do blacksmithing and bladesmithing and armoring of that grade. I just need to acquire / set up a few more things, and I'm very excited to have that coming. So that is in the works. And I realized I put a very strange typo here, and I just got much better gear in general come up because I had done a misspelling. Now, I was talking about these last session, so I may bring them up about some of the gear. But I'm looking on Amazon just because Amazon is relatively approachable. So give me just a second, and I will bring up that, and then I need to hit the comments because one second, entire screen. I don't want to have to navigate too silly. And add to stage. Okay, this works. Red Dragon gloves, while $100 is pricey, and I would check the sizing, they're good. I've heard nothing really bad about Red Dragon gloves. Apparently, you have varied between different people selling through Amazon. These padded gloves are very close to the ones that they might actually be the model that I fence in, or very similar. They're good for light sparring, fencing, keeping it to approachable. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. What I'm seeing is rip-offs and duplicates of other gloves, but these have a long cuff. What is the? Do they have a rating? They don't have a rating. Okay. There are some interesting. This is a new company I haven't seen before, so I will be looking into that. Again, it's 100. That looks like leather on the layered leather. I'm not quite sure. Okay. There isn't side protection for the finger though, and that does concern me. Still, there are options now. Those are sexy. I want to talk about. There are a lot of. Last week, I was talking. It was either last week or the week before. I was talking about things like these. These are essentially bib style neck protectors. They are not gorgets, and see, they talk about being suitable for steel sparring. I'm not sure how I feel about that as a concept. But as you can see, the back end is elasticized, which means it's not giving you any protection to the back of the neck, and it's not giving you impact lock-in protection because they're aiming for comfort. I have real concerns about that style of gorget. But I want to walk through, see if I see anything that looks really, really good. I like the elbows, but they're a bit expensive. Avoid LARPy things because things like this look cool, but I don't trust them to not get you hurt. Uh, and that's one thing I don't want is you guys getting hurt. More than anything, I don't want you guys getting hurt. I would rather have you guys uh, give up the hobby than do something that would knowingly hurt you. Um, this style where they are layered, where the finger lames are layered, they can get bent in and prevent your hand from unlocking to take them off. I'm really, really, really going to state that I am hesitant for anything like that. Now, these guys are beautiful because if we were talking about leather gloves that just uh, give lots of coverage. If I were back SCA, I would be looking very, very hard at something like this. If it's, all, you want an all leather, but these are very nice gloves. And they look like they're not quite, see, these are welding gloves, but looking through, these look like they would give very good protection. So, but check with your local marshals. Many times it has to be pure leather, but these are greatly uh, quite a bit cheaper than a lot of the gloves I've seen that supposedly are earmarked for what we do. Uh, these are great because if you see the little fingertips, that usually means you can run a that's touchscreen compatible, which is actually a feature for those of us who do streaming of what we do. Something like that could be very, very useful. So you just have to keep that in mind. So I wanted to get into that. Now I'm going to drop into the chat, make sure there aren't any questions there. I hope that answers your question on, just a quick walkthrough on some of the gloves that can be acquired. And stream through Botrix is correctly entered the channel. Hello. Hey, Dave, how are you? Good to see you, listening while working. And hello, Guild. Really appreciate the watch time. I appreciate you guys reaching out over Kick. Please be sure to like this wherever you're streaming. Now, I'm kind of following on my running discussion of I want to get back to the discussion on the expanding and expounding on your technique. So, because I haven't seen anything too spanky coming through the new weapons area, I will say for people with smaller hands, smaller people in general, from what I remember of, say, Ruby, from what I remember of some of the ladies, the pointer sword is basically needle. And it is surprisingly fast and elegant. I am actually tempted to order another 3. If I had the funds, I'd order another 3. They are, the only concern is that the narrower grip does make for a weak spot right there, and I really want to see how they hold up. So I have to go through some more practices. But you put, when you have your gloves, especially if you have a glove with a padded palm, which can really help with that the impact absorption and comfort. Uh, the smaller grip feels so much better. It's very interesting. So I wanted to put that out there. Again, this is geared towards our smaller fighters. But one thing that came up recently in a discussion was what to do when things go wrong, and the scenario was the katana wielder, style fighter, has just knocked your sword offline and is coming in at the speed of light. Now, this is where we have to go by the style you're fighting, the style of footwork you're most comfortable with. So if you have an aggressive opponent and they're coming in at you, especially if they're a katana guy, there's a good chance they're a kendo guy. Most likely you're going to have a downward cut at one of the V's. So 6 or 8, 5, 6 or 8. Okay, we just skipped 5 and 7 for the most part, but the best thing, in my humble opinion, I shouldn't have closed that screen. Hold on, is to have an understanding of your footwork, and this is where the Spanish in me and the Chinese influence will always override the Italian, French, or German, let alone English approach. If I am a solo fighter and someone is rushing in fast, very linear, the first thing you want to do is remember the line of attack. Oh, God, I'm going to have to do this. Hold on. Boop. So, got to get my whiteboard out. Well, new, set that up. Okay. Get a marker I like. Give me a sec. Because I want to address these problems. Is he doing like that? Yeah, that works. Okay. I don't need this anymore. I do need... Well, I don't need that for the most part. Okay, so we're going to switch down for just a second. No, I don't want to be there. That works. No. There it is. Okay. So if we are talking about the line of attack, you are here, they are here. And it doesn't really matter what your stance is. The lines from your lead foot to their lead foot, or in this case, they're facing each other, is going to be the line of attack. Okay? Now that that's established, if they're coming across, I am going to need colors. They're going to be coming straight down the line of attack at you. What this means is anywhere, so we'll use a regular green for you. Oops. You don't want to go anywhere that isn't here, 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 or here. You could even go directly to the side at the last minute. But if you go directly to laterally, if you go sideways, it's very easy for them to recognize you're going sideways. What you want to do, hopefully, is you want to, here, we'll go blue so you can see the motion. You want to come in and then engage as they're coming. So the better version, believe it or not, is to do a traverse step. Takes you, not transverse step. I'm getting too complicated in my terminology. My speech impediment hates me. You're basically going to take a diagonal step, and then you're going to keep your tip online. So if possible, you want to get your sword up and do that. If you can't get your sword up out of there, you need to dance out of the way. Okay? Because you need to not be there at the moment they expect you to. You don't want to retreat, because if you retreat, oh, yeah, that's a horrible color. If you retreat, it's just another step for him. Now, you can, if he's gone from a still motion, you get 2 to 3 strides backwards faster than 1 to 2 forwards. This is really going to help you understand that you can evade, provided the situation allows. The problem is, very often there will be something, especially if they're charging that recklessly, that cuts off a bunch of your options, like a wall. Okay? This is why it's one of the few times I really, really like the coming offline and attacking into their attack. Calibration can be dicey, so you almost don't want to overextend your arm. You certainly don't want to lock your arm, because you will skewer the heck out of them if they're not expecting it. Now, a lot of this is going to work with if you have dropped your if you've dropped your guard purposefully. So give me a second, because of their impact. So give me just a second. We're going to go here. And I think I'm going to fix the layout real quick. Nope, that's not how to do that. Cancel it. Sorry, they moved some of my commands, so I'm a little hesitant. And good evening, Dawn, if I haven't said hi. So when we get back, let me get some space here, and we'll go on. Yes, I know, I'm moving stuff. Give me just a second. Pardon the chunkiness. If you are knocked down, so I have to do it up here so that you can see I don't want to block. So your guard probably is in third or 2.5. Trilaina likes to fight from fourth. I don't like to fight from fourth primarily because a downward blow puts a lot of torque on my wrist. Okay? And that makes defense very difficult. But usually I'm here to here. This is where I live. Somewhere in this region. 2.5 to 3.5. And that's kind of a joke, but don't worry about it. If I am knocked offline, I can do a block and step in. Now, this is not rapier fighting. You can tell this is not rapier fighting because I'm supporting the back of the blade. It's a little bit katana. It's a little bit very ugly saber. And if you saw, okay, knocked off line, boom. I can pull down and aggress. If I'm knocked off line this way, I can gain the ground. Oh, bye, Sarah. I'm sorry you had to go. Support the weapon and use this as a shield. Because if it's a katana, it's going to be a cutting blow, probably from this angle. They are doing a fast, yeah, they can do the wheeling, but they really don't tend to. They tend to do a lot of very powerful downward cuts. So if you can step in and use a modified tonfa, because a lot of times these guys are faster and they're stronger. This is going to if you catch it right on the blade, it slides down the blade, you let it go, and you can wheel in. So wheel in for a headshot shot. Yes, Nick, that sounds like Meyer. I've read Meyer. Hit, transverse. Now see, the school of Nick, if you're studying with me, what you learn is bang, bang, pommel strike. Because I believe this is a full weapon. Okay? Dunk, donk. That's against most conventions. That doesn't mean that you can't use it. Donk, donk. Nick, you're fighting that. You're closing up, yes. Because you're closing up, you're almost half-handing your rapier. Yes. And you're doing it in almost a spear style. Yes. We must be as flexible as our situations demand with our combat. I need to bring that down a little more. There. That way I don't look like I'm a third grader. Understanding the flexibility and counters, it's advanced. It's way out there. But you start to get the idea. This is where you start, because when you start getting aggressive combatants who are coming in at a straight on angle, you're looking into a lot of bodies in motion, and it has to slide by the conventions of your group and what you're doing. Now, the real option for here, if you can, is to void it, slide it down, pommel strike. If you can't do something cute like pommel strike, you trip them. We don't do that when we are playing with our friends. We don't do that when we are having fun or in competition. That being said, I have always been slightly enamored. It worked really well several times to be able to fall back on something like a hip toss. Now, we don't want to fully reap the guy, but that's an option. However, the only way to get into an advantageous position for any of these shenanigans is to comfortably and willingly surrender the line of attack. It is, if Thesis were here, a moment of yin for a lifetime of yang. You have given them the gift of absorption, and then you can reply. I accepted your shot. I am replying. This is the kind of flow that is really needed, and that's really going to help you pick up and lay down your aggressive, usually larger combatants. Why am I saying usually larger? Because usually bigger guys or dramatically shorter guys, but usually bigger guys are more likely to make an aggressive move because there is an ingrained intimidation of just your mind calculating the mass of what is coming at you. It takes a lot to stare down the oncoming bull, and a lot of people freeze. There are 5 responses: fight. What was it? Is it 5 or 4? Because it's fight, flight, freeze. Oh yeah, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, warp. Offer is intercourse as a reaction to stress and trauma. It almost all boils down to that. So we have to understand that that's part of the procedure, part of the way we do things biologically. But there is no reason, if you are not heavily equipped to do so, or system, required by situation to hold the line. Now, line combat, that's a whole different ballpark. Line combat, if somebody's barreling down at you, you may have to endure that shot. And if you are trained well, either you'll make an opening or someone else, if you are tangled and they see that, they will crossfire and engage your opponent. So if somebody comes in, big, heavy overhand swing towards you and you have a shield, you may have to brace to take it. And no, I am not tabling my shield. It's one thing. A lot of people bring the shield up, bring the shield down. Now I want to, just like my approach to void and parry, when people's like either void or parry, if I can do this, it cuts the travel time in half. And if I'm doing this, I'm usually doing it to throw a counter low. You get me? So if we put a shield here, do I have a shield in here? No, I don't. Nothing I care to use in a shield-like fashion. Yeah, that won't work. I need to set up a distinct set of light props for the purpose of doing this stuff. But if the sword's coming down, bam. Now you're up. You have it. Give it tabled your shield, and if you do it right, the edge of your shield is right here. So as you rotate, you get this window. You get that window. You're offline. It gives you time to correct, and pow, you're going for the kidneys. You go low, scrunch, bam. That's how you by yourself are dealing with it. Or you're going low, thrust, bam. Same concept. Aiming for a nice. You can't get the liver shot real well unless they step in with their right side, but you get something, kidneys. There's beautiful organ meat that can be exposed. Quite some time ago, there was a program, and I loved it. It was a great fun. It was nothing like the books, but it was one of those where you just accept it's not like the books. It was a program called Legend of the Seeker, and I enjoyed the heck out of that program, save for one thing. Our boy Richard Cypher had the sword of truth, I think. Anyway, my son, when he was very small, tried to taste the Nerf here. And his favorite thing in the world was to jump up and because he was usually shirtless, and it usually dramatically showed off his abs before he'd bring a smashing blow down on the opponent. I just wanted once to see somebody go, step off, poke, and you poke him in the belly button. You know? Boop! Tickle, tickle. Step off line to the second. And that's another one. If you want to go lateral, if you're off, it all depends, because they talk about your weapon being knocked offline. Your rapier. The thing about rapiers are, if they are balanced properly, bringing them back online is such such an ease and delight. And if you can't bring your tip online, you turn it into a draw cut. Okay? Even if you don't have the force behind it. Because we don't train. Remember, if you are fighting rapier, you are not training like you are in armor. You are not simulating armor. You are simulating civilian, mostly, cloth, clothes. The agreed upon conventions. You aren't worried about powering through, getting a good deep cut thrust through some chain, good piercing through some chainmail, or good cut through some heavy leather or something. No, you are dealing with your opponent, and yourself theoretically are wearing normal clothes in function. Does that make sense? So if you want to work through that, you have to work through. You have to keep your mind what you're simulating. And this is another thing. Very rarely in modern combat do you engage armored opponents. The only time you need to be thinking that you are engaging an armored opponent is if you are in a military exchange at which there's a lot more ammunition being exchanged than you need to worry about this stuff, or you are in a riot slash police action, wherein, and I'm not saying which side of it you're on, both sides may be wearing at least chest armor. Okay? These are literally the only times you could, that I can think of, go against an armored opponent. I'm, of course, not condoning this. I'm simply talking about understanding the tactics. That's also why we still discuss the concepts of how cavalry work in conjunction with infantry. And your vast majority of time, you're going to, if you're seeing cavalry in a conflict in modern time, and by cavalry, I mean horse-mounted cavalry. I am not talking about armored cavalry. I'm not talking about motorized cavalry. I'm talking about those things that feed hay and poop manure, You're also going to have to deal with that in a tighter space. You're going to have to likely deal with that in an urban setting. That changes things. The numbers involved change things, and the fact that they don't usually do full cavalry charges change things. Okay? This is why I hate, what if they do this? And I get a lot of questions like this. A very narrow, very fixed set of information on one aspect of the attack, but I don't know the other factors I really need to know to fully analyze it. I need to know situation. I need to know your sword has been knocked offline. I believe in conversation they said a rapier, so I've operated as a rapier. And yes, you can flat of a rapier, use the block, and diagonal it. Okay. It sucks, but it makes a saber-style attack a lot less likely to plaster you. A lot of things have to go wrong for you to be in this kind of situation. And these were all approaches, but the single thing is one of the golden rules of Nickdom when it comes to fighting like this. When in doubt, get the out. Okay? And that's where we talked about the movement. Get off that line of attack and do something else. If you can't do that, you may need to drop. You're going to at least have to be willing to adjust your body somewhere, because the worst thing you can do is freeze. When things go wrong, you need to be moving instantly. You don't want to give yourself time to go, well, shit. If you give yourself that much time, you're going to have problems. Okay? So we have all that. I hope that answers the questions that were sent to me. I did have a individual ask, what do we do? What should I do if I'm the larger person? Because you're always talking about the smaller. So I'm going to give you a little bit of that. If you are the larger person in a bout, there are two things you have to really keep in mind. Okay? One, you need a weapon that is going to be scaled to you. It's going to give you a larger reach than most people. Okay? You need to just expect that, which means you need to guard against everything I've told you guys to do as a short person. That means you need a secondary or backup weapon that you can rapidly deploy in your defense to cover the gap between you and the backside of the band of attack of your primary weapon. Now, some people do this with Case, and Case is beautiful for that, but I will still say that sword and parry dagger, sword and short sword, sword and buckler, with the caveat that it can be used offensively, especially, are where you're going to want to go with that. You need to keep the closed in closed. When it comes to being big, you want to do as much as possible to keep your footwork very, very controlled. And the reason I'm bugging you about your footwork is because of your body weight on your knees, especially. Knees and ankles, and then eventually hips. You're going to be putting a tremendous amount of weight and tremendous amount of leverage on these mechanical devices. If that, what that means is, one, that's where you're going to get targeted by more defensive-minded people. Okay? You have to think where you're going to be most vulnerable. What are you leaving out there? With most people, I say avoid the legs. Don't really, unless you're doing a leg them and leave them, you might get shot to an upper thigh. But if there's a significant height difference, poking somebody in the leg, disengaging out of their reach, and going to do something else is totally valid. You understand what I'm saying? I don't need to kill you. I just need to make you stop doing what you're doing. The other option is, this is your bread and butter right here. You see that? That muscle is your buddy. Pop, pop, pop. Right here. This little dude. I say that because anybody who is of a larger size, who has dealt with me for any length of time, when they get marks, it's here. The reason they're more likely to get bruises there than anywhere else is twofold. One, for as good as I am, and I am good, my speed and their speed can meet up, so they'll get hit here and maybe the bicep, but I have to do a lot of reaching. The difference between this and this is a lot of safety. If I can get any of this, if I can make that arm not want to hold things, not want to stab me, usually people start with their primary hand. I am at a tremendous advantage. Most people do not train with their left arm nearly enough. They certainly don't expect to need to train with your left arm because, once again, in the classic discussion of defensive sword mastery, uh, your opponent most likely in a survival situation is has the potential for less training than you. Now, you may be wrong. This is why in my book I have a lot of analysis. You need to be able to visually analyze what your assailant, how your assailant is moving, what that tells you about them, and how to deal with it. But the vast majority of time, the people who have decent training are going to be less likely to be committing crimes. The people you're most likely to encounter in a criminal state, assault. You have to remember why they're assaulting you. Frankly, most likely someone you know, someone you care about. They are either angry or they intoxicated because numerically, statistically, you are most around people you know, so they're the most likely to harm you. But if it's someone who is in pursuit of the means to feed an addiction, so that they're robbing for that, um, they may be impaired in their movement. It's something to watch for. They may be intoxicated. Is this a drunk guy? If so, are they someone you can easily evade and escape and just get out? You get out. Oh. My goal is to have you be able to recognize and prevent the conflict first. You understand? If you can't recognize and prevent the conflict, you need to negate the threat, neutralize the threat with the minimum damage, the minimum energy expenditure, and the minimum time to make them stop so that you can evade, and then you immediately, I'm going to get ugly about this, immediately call the police, because when two people call the police, statistically it has been shown in everything I've seen, and it's been a while, so I can't give you the papers I was reading, but police departments and police individuals believe the first caller over the second. So if you get assaulted and you have to defend yourself, you immediately call the police. You immediately face the consequences. If you have access to a lawyer, you call them, tell them what's happening, and do what they say. Because my goal is to keep you alive, keep you out of jail, and kind of defend you against the prospect of legal hazard, the legal threat, the threat of either jail time, civil action, or more. That's why I always think in terms of, can I escape? If I'm by myself, especially. Now, if I am with a minor, my son usually, perhaps one of the kids at the library, if I'm out, out by the library, it's about the only time I'm around people, certainly around minors. I may have to be in defense of them, and then it's a different situation too. However, as when I'm at the library, I'm literally across the street from the cop shop. The amount of issue that is likely to, not across the street, across the parking lot, to encounter is low. So why is that? Because I'm careful. If I go to Walmart and I see a conflict, I'm not going to intervene. I'm not paid to. If I am at a different store and I see someone who may wish to engage me, I will leave my shopping because I keep everything I need on me. Once in a while, I have to put hang my coat off in the winter, but I will literally abandon all of that in a heartbeat because that gets me. What is all of this? Getting you off the line of attack. You can always come back around later. You can always flank around later, but you want, whenever possible, if you can surrender the line of attack, you can come at it from a more beneficial tangent. This is heavy distress of thinking, but this is also what will keep you alive because there is a humility to these concepts. Do you understand? Am I making sense to you? Because my chat's been very quiet today. Oh, hello, Albert. I'm glad that makes sense. Please, by all means, Albert, how you doing? Would you rather have no bread but lots of money, or bread and lots of bread, and money and bread? Honestly, I am a rather large guy who's fond of carbs. So having bread and money is good. Uh, a lot of it depends on the lots. Now, this is a tongue-in-cheek question, but I love tongue-in-cheek questions because. And Don's responding, "Oh, thank you," because like my brain went, well, at a certain point of bread, you can't keep it without spoilage. So, yes, thank you. And you don't know, we know people who will take all the bread spelled bread. Uh, Ironically, uh, my sort of second in command around here, a lovely lady by the name of Trilaina Bachman, who isn't able to be in the stream right now because she's socializing in another group, uh, has a cat named Bread. So there were layers of humor to your commentary, Albert. But to get back to what I was saying, oh, and to the people who are like, Nick, I didn't see that comment come up. I get comments from 2 YouTube channels, 2 Twitch channels, and 1 Kick channel, as well as sometimes I get direct messages from my Facebook, which is on my phone down here. So a lot of times I have comments coming in from strange angles, and people occasionally reach out to me. I get emails where people will say, hey, I have a question about this style or whatever, and I try to get them whatever resources I can because I'm all about serving the community. The need for logic when we are looking at these situations is vital. And, you can do a lot more with preparation and observation than you can with observation alone. Now, a great many people have messaged me and responded with, but Nick, isn't the solution freedom dispensers? Devices that go pew, pew, pew. And I respond to that with, that is a solution. provided you treat it like a martial art, because I believe marksmanship of all kinds is indeed a martial art. That means archery is a martial art. That means black powder is a martial art. That means the application of modern pew-pews is a martial art. And that means you have to follow all the standards therein. You have to know your tool. You have to be trained and comfortable in your tool. Deployment, it's good, it's bad. What to do if it doesn't work right. Things like that. You have to follow all the rules. In that case, we're skipping past the, is it loaded? Yes. Are we pointing it? We're not pointing it at anything that we don't wish to destroy. Yes. Do we know what's behind the target? And that's where the wheels fall off on a lot of the defensive applications of pew-pews in many situations for me. Can I use them? Yes. Can I use them effectively? Surprisingly. Would I like to get more training to be better at it? Yes. I if I had the funds, I would take several defensive courses. I would love to. I would love to take high level and moderate level defensive driving courses as well. Because I acquire skills like trading cards. It's just fun for me, and it's practical. Now, I also suffer from some nerve damage, which affects my hands especially, and it can cause tremors, especially under like a low blood sugar situation or other situations like that. Because of those traits, and because I literally maybe once a month, maybe end up by myself without my special needs son, a freedom dispenser is not the best idea for my lifestyle. Now, I do walk with a mobility aid. My mobility aid is about a 5-foot walking stick, between 4 and 5 feet. I have to measure it again. It is something I carry every single day. So if we're looking at what we should train in my opinion, any martial style you train in should be something that mirrors and will not directly oppose your defensive approach. Now, if you're military, you are going to train in something like MCMAP, the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program, which is basically to rapidly and immediately neutralize the threat, usually in a very permanent fashion. That is one set of, so your skills are going to be angled there. I spent many years working with special needs people, and over 2 of them working with extremely behavioral special needs people who had history of violence. So I had to do a lot of therapeutic holds and defending yourself where you cannot, where your aggressor, your threat, is someone who is truly not capable of understanding what they're doing, both pro and con. And for the reason of their mental functionality, you can't hold them to the level of accounting. So my job was to, amongst other things, dispense medicines, ensure hygiene, aid with day-to-day tasks, and prevent them from being a physical threat to themselves or others. That meant defending myself without harming them. It also meant being able to take a punch without holding animosity towards my clients. It was good preparation for some of the things I have to do with my son, because my son is a behavioral special needs child. He is 16 and he's nearly a foot taller than me. He's growing like a weed. So I have to keep and maintain my reflexive actions in as minimal a response as possible, fully understanding that someone aggressing me will not give me that courtesy. So that will always influence and speak to my approach when we're talking about swordplay. Because I have to keep my trained reflexes limited. Because if my trained reflex is to take a punch, turn it over, stab somebody in the armpit, twist the knife, and end them, as some of the systems I've studied would encourage, I don't want to do that, say, in an office environment. Because when you're looking to protect yourself, and I say this all the time, but it's very, very important. When you're looking to protect yourself, and even when you're sparring, you're doing sword play, hand to hand, whatever your combat sport or martial art is, you never want to do something that creates another threat if you can avoid it. So it's a matter of keeping this, oh God, mindfulness. And that really is the secret. Mindfulness is the secret to most martial arts. It is the secret to health. It is the secret to a great many things. Is being present in the moment, being aware and thinking clearly. You are going to have emotions. You are going to feel them. But the trick is to make sure that you admit to having the emotion doesn't have you. Because when the emotion has you, that's when folks screw up. That's when folks make mistakes that can cost lives, or people get hurt. That's when, if you're not paying attention, if you're not there, you are vulnerable. Sorry, my speech impediment. I felt my tongue just go fat. You are vulnerable to attack from alert predators. And I mean, this is real jungle water hole thinking. But you need reasons. At the end of the show, I say what I'm about to say in a moment, which includes the phrase, keep your eyes open. Or keep your head on a swivel. Something like that. I play with the phrasing a little bit. Because that is what's going to keep you alive. And I am remarkably passionate on the subject of keeping people alive. Whenever possible. If you're not alive, you can't make amends. You can't improve. You can't fix it. You can't get better. And I am supposed to treat people like I want to be treated. And the vast majority of time, if I am making a rather severe mistake, and someone has the opportunity to either negate my actions in a safe way or put me down, the vast majority of time, I would prefer not to be put down. Um, there are exceptions because there are things that people can do that I don't believe can can strategically be allowed to continue. Uh, Certain very specific types of abuse to people, certain levels of betrayal of one's country, things like that. Uh, that these are things that are so horrific that a person kind of stops being a person. It's essentially rabies. They become a rabid dog, and the only option is the kindest option is to put them down. And if I were ever into that state because of, I mean, I don't engage in substances, save for like caffeine, um, and I barely engage in that anymore. If if I were to become something like that, and I could step out of myself and look at it, I would want somebody to stop me through whatever means was necessary, but do so with as little damage. And this is serious stuff, but I believe when we are discussing martial arts, when we are discussing historical swordplay, when we are discussing combat sports, we have to always keep the reality of the situation in mind. We have to remember what we are training in, what we are training for, what this training and equipment can provide, and be as realistic as possible. So, do I train with my staff daily? Yes. It is not my favorite type of combat, but it's something I train in because I carry a walking stick. Now, I carry a knife everywhere I go too, but I consider my knife, this is an actual edged knife. I am a professional. Children don't do this at home or whatever. But this is a tool primarily. Not that it's too short to do damage. It's not. It could. Uh, but I have aforementioned hand problems, and doing things like tearing open certain types of bags and packaging just doesn't happen. Likewise, opening a folding tool doesn't always work. But I know I could grab this knife, and when I grab it, I squeeze it and it pops out. It has very deep finger gauges, so even if my grip loosens a bit, I'm still holding on to it. Thumb goes on the churls on the back, boom, boom. And then, unless I'm cutting for cooking applications where I get this blade pinch. If you've ever worked in a kitchen, you understand why. Anything else? Uh, Thumb on the churl, on the spine of the knife, go. But I can hold on to this. I can make this go. I don't want to use it ever aggressively. But it would be ridiculous for me to train in a way it doesn't transfer. Now, sometimes I walk with a cane. And one of my favorite canes, one second. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of cleaning up my study. And anyway, have some music. Is this. I made this cane, quite like it. Consider it my gentleman's cane. It does not have a handle traditionally. I need to find a topper, and I haven't decided how I want to do it so it doesn't damage it, because this is a beautiful cane. This is a piece of red oak, I believe. I've stained it, done a little bit of decor. It is square. It is square so that it can't roll away as easy as the round ones can. If I grab it and I put my thumb at this ball, it is roughly 30 inches, which is one of my favorite rapier lengths. So I can train with this. If I come here, drop down, gets to being between 22 and 24 inches, depending on where I end up gripping, which is a very nice short sword machete length for me. So I can train concussive cuts. Oh, I have enough space now to do two-handed weapon training. I can work with this. This is an entire uh, Dojo or Soleil's uh, set of training tools that all in one. Can I do sword drills, spear drills with this? Absolutely. I can do spear work, the equivalent of glaive work. I can do sliding axe strikes with it, whichever way I hold it. Because it is carved, I can feel where my hand is on the grip at all times. I am acquainted with this. I have no problems carrying this. However, too much pushing down, that hurts my wrists due to the nerve damage. So usually I have a stick that's long enough that I can hold. I loop the leather strap through to give more support, and I hold it there. That is integral to my functionality. That's how you adapt. I don't tend to train in ornate styles because I do not have the physicality to be always ornate. I try to train from the perspective of how does my body move on the worst days. And if techniques aren't going to work on my worst days, I don't focus on them very much. Because I know how my luck works. Bad fortune tends to attract other bad luck, bad fortune. So again, this is very realistic. This isn't me going, no, use your new super tactical extreme beardsmic operator. You know, I've taken Krav Maga and turned it into an even more deadly art. I'm not trying to be Jason Bourne. I'm not trying to be John Wick. I'm trying to be the little fellow that I am. And I want to be peaceful and or mostly harmless. I don't live in a world where I have the privilege, the freedom, there's a specific term I'm looking for. The option to be truly harmless. I can't allow that. So I'm either mostly harmless or I am peaceful. And that is where the vast majority of my training is mindset. I will not. I'm a writer. Do I write characters who are fully capable of, heroic to super heroic deeds? Absolutely. Do I wish I had those abilities? Certainly. But I don't. So I won't delude myself. And neither should you. Part of the situational and tactical awareness I want you guys to have is of your own condition and situation. You should know what equipment you have on you. You should know and have some idea what would I do if this or this happened. Don't be afraid to mentally, when you're in a safe place, play those games. And gamify it and engage your brain. Whenever you walk into a place, think to yourself, where are the exits? Which am I most likely to get to? If I can't get to an exit, where can I hide? If it looks like I'm going to have no choice but to fight, is there any place I can go that will give me better equipment to deal with the situation? Like, if I had to deal with a life or death struggle in a Walmart, I would far rather be in the outdoor gardening section or the tool section when something went down ugly than I would want to be in the cereal aisle. because I have a lot more options in the surrounding materials. So yeah, if I could take the the single best advice for practical self-defense is pay attention. I hope that's helpful to you guys. I hope that we've been kind of on this arc. If you have more questions, you can email me. You can ping the Historical Fencing Guild public group on Facebook. I'm all over the place. Um, I can't believe that I have patrons who help me do this. You're very patient with me, and I appreciate you dearly. There's Patreon. You can send me questions there, and I will try to answer them. I want to be of service to the community. But with that, guys, do your drills, keep your guard up, be kind to yourself and each other. And as always, thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. I'll be back with another episode of the Historical Fencing Guild live stream next Friday. Let me look. Let me double check, because my birthday weekend is coming up and that I might have entanglements. Yes, next Friday I will be free and clear. Beyond that, remember, folks, I love you and you should too. Okay? And I'll see you for Never Mind the Furthermore Monday. Toodles.